Yeah.
It's going to take about a minute and a half.
Hey,
So I'm going
you put the DNA circles up in your studio.
to, Morgan did last night.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Check that out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. There's another one. There's another one over here.
Oh, wow.
It's kind of hard to
So
do.
there's 24. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, they're pretty amazing.
Yeah, they are.
All right, let's play the intro real quick. We'll be back in a minute and 19 seconds with a new friend, Julie Pershin. See
Uh,
you. What's happening, everybody? Julie Pershin's in the house. Everything's sacred. And thank you for coming on and sharing space with us and honoring us with your presence.
thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Um, you and Morgan and everybody who comes on the show have been such a blessing in my life. I discovered you from member Z Earthstar.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, you were interviewing her, and I was like, who is this guy? Like, I want to start following him, and I did. And it was not long after COVID broke out. And boy, it has saved my hide, saved my sanity, saved my soul so many times. It's it really is its own realm, you know. It's amazing what happens. Like, someday I'll be pondering something or I'll have a question, and then it gets answered on Soulogy, or some validation will come, or some synchronicity or coherence, or something that wasn't in my field of view that gets brought to my attention and opens up possibilities. So deepest gratitude to Soulogy, to you, to Morgan, and to everyone who comes on here that brings so many gifts. Thank you.
Thank you. And everyone that's a part of it,
Yeah.
because in this quantum merging of the physical and the non-physical, it's
Yeah.
like Abraham Hicks says, it's a giant vortex. And I'm a strong believer in the intentions of the people that come,
Yeah.
whether it's a replay, a live, whatever. They're coming from the same place, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
same desire.
Hmm.
So that's a yeah.
The whole fam damly.
The whole fam family. That sounds like a Texas adage. You're not from Texas, are you?
No, I was
Do
born in
that.
Oregon. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico. My father's from. I'm trying to situate here. My father's from Portland.
Something, or I'll have a question. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's okay. My father's from Portland, Oregon. My mom's from San Francisco. Um, and I lost my mom pretty early on in life. Um, she left the earthly plane when I was 19, and my dad left April 20. No, August 13th, the day before my birthday last year, 2020.
Wow.
2020 was, I mean, I'm well aware that it was a wild ride for all of us, and I'm certainly included in that. On February 14th, 2020, I had a major foot surgery and I was bedridden for about a month. And right right after that, the pandemic broke out. And then my father had a heart attack and ended up in the hospital. And then my stepmother, who helped raise me since age 4, passed away. Um, and then in the summer, my father passed away. So it was a huge year, a huge year.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so the whole time during the year, you were plugged in and expanding at the same time. That's kind of like what the energy seems to be. And I know it shows up in different ways, but it's both of them, right? You're on this path and you're expanding and you're going through the cycles of downloads and integration and triggers and expansions, and at the same time you hear a lot of people energetically, talking about, or and even watching it in the community, people transitioning, just different things, a lot of displacement.
Hmm. That's a great word. Yeah. And yeah, and a lot of disintegration too, right? I mean,
Hmm.
things sometimes have to disintegrate to reintegrate, right? And just that, I mean, I think a lot of people in the Soulogy family, and like you say, that applies, like Soulogy is in so many places on the earth, and it's so many people, and it's made of so many things, right? So there's this whole family on earth that have known for a really long time, maybe even since childhood, that something just doesn't look right, feel right, smell right, that we're being presented with this big illusion.
Hmm.
And it's not, it is just that it's an illusion, right? And I think, boy, I went down so many rabbit holes when COVID started. It's like who's behind the scenes and who's doing what and who, and so I looked deeper into like what are the illusions, and what are the illusions most importantly within myself that are contributing to the larger illusion. And the past 7 years, um, you know, I've, as with probably everybody who comes on here, I have been through a lot in life, right? Without going into stories, I could just say that I've been through a lot. And I've always felt resilient. And that's what's carried me through, my perseverance, my diligence, my trust, my faith, my strength, my perseverance. But there was like in the past 7 years, there were so many things that happened, and it's as if there weren't long enough gaps between those experiences um to integrate or to come back to center or to tap into that resilience for long enough before getting plunged, and then coming up for air again. And it left me really depleted on many levels, especially physically. Like I understand that, part of being on this earth and having a human body, and maybe that's an illusion we're clearing now too. But there's this aging process, right? And but I didn't feel. I mean, I felt I was looking just really tired and depleted. And I don't have any problem, looking a certain age, but I don't like looking depleted.
Hmm.
It just didn't make my soul feel good. It didn't make me feel like I would have the strength to to tap into, to keep going and to expand, as you say. And um, a while ago, I'd heard lots of people on the show talk about zero pointing and their experiences. And I was lying in bed the other night thinking about all the names and faces um, that I know of now because of Soulogy. And in my life, my mom, not to drop any shocking bombs, but just to be totally transparent and honest, when I was 19, my mother jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge. And um, that experience, um, it led me to become a seeker early on in life. I was only 19 when that happened. And so, it's like I wanted to get to the bottom of things. I wanted to understand why that had happened. And so um, then in my late 20s, I discovered Tibetan Buddhism. And, as with every, I mean, I don't really call Buddhism a religion per se. I call it more of a, gosh, to me, the Buddhists are like, they're like some of the best quantum physicists out there, and really Buddhism is more a way of being and a philosophy of life, and how to be in it and strip yourself of those illusions and step into the fullness of yourself. So I followed that path for a while. I was introduced to some amazing teachers, and it really did open me up. And then, I kept going. There's lots of things. There's lots of those teachings that will always be with me, but I kept searching. I mean, I've been exposed to, I feel like, almost every healing modality, philosophy, paradigm, whatever that you can think of. And Santa Fe is somewhat of a mecca too. There's a lot of healers here practicing all sorts of modalities, from, mental to physical, um, spiritual. And but anyway, Todd, so to get to where I'm trying to go with all this is that I felt like, gosh darn it, I've searched and searched and searched. I'm still feeling ripped apart by these last 7 years of experiences. I'm feeling depleted. Um, I'm not feeling resilient. I don't feel as healthy as I'd like to be. I feel like I've tried every avenue. What the heck? And it was like, well, you just have to try zero pointing. You've been wanting to do it for a really long time, so make it happen. So Morgan and I made an appointment with Morgan, and my zero pointing journey has been really interesting. I had so many questions about it. It's like before even starting, I really wanted to prepare the ground. I wanted to understand what it was. I wanted to make sure that I was doing it right. But I mean, that's different for everybody. What is doing it right? But using the instructions that Morgan gave and following that formula without forgetting something or skipping steps, or just really understanding what I was doing. And Morgan has been very gracious and patient with me, and anytime I have a question, she's there to answer it. So it took a minute to even get that process started. So I started with my mother and I finished that 0 point list, but I felt something was missing. Like I didn't feel much of a shift. So I went back to Morgan, and we realized I had made the list, but I had forgotten to check in with the young girl and the teen and the young woman and the now self. Um, and then there was another piece that was given to me, about another way to check in. And so then, oh, in my last meeting with Morgan, I sang her a little song.
All right.
If right. And she said, "Oh man, you've got to come on Soulogy and sing that song."
Well, we were talking about it this morning, and she mentioned that, and I remember her telling me that just vaguely, and I said, "Well, I wonder if she'll sing it on the show." And she said, "Well, maybe you should ask her." So I'm asking.
Yeah, I
Whenever.
yeah, I will. I will most definitely. And so so I thought, wow, because I see Soulogy as this, as soul family, as its own realm. Um, and then it was funny what the ego did and the conversations in the mind once the invite happened. It's like, well, there's all these people on there with
Mhm.
all of this wisdom, and and all of this energy, and they've got websites and they've got something to say, and they're doing their life and they're doing their practice, and they're like, you don't have, this is ridiculous, right? These are programs running, but I'm just sharing to be
No,
transparent.
I really appreciate this. This is what it's all about. I mean, the wisdom is in the code of the experience. And so
Right.
people, somebody made a comment earlier. So amazing, Don. Thank you. So amazing how. Oh, wait, that wasn't it. She said it up here. Uh, what she was saying, she was commenting. Somebody commented on. Oh, I honor everyone that brings raw authenticity to the table, and I think that's what you're doing today. And I think that's probably the most important thing we can do.
Yeah. So there was this conversation with the ego, and it was just like, well, what do you have to offer, and what are you going to say, and da 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 da. And finally, I was just like, you know what? I can't play there. I'm me, and I do have something to offer, and all of the factors that have come to this moment, um, are are part of the experience, and surely I have something to offer. And why am I playing that terrible game with myself? So I dropped it. But I did want to have something to offer. And so I made a commitment to myself that I would have my mother and my father zero pointed by the time I came on. And it didn't happen in a day or a week. It was a long process because I um, I would go through the list, and these epiphanies would come. Zero pointing itself would come and bring me an epiphany and teach me just in seeing and how it worked. There was so much wisdom. And then epiphanies would come from the list, or from the little girl, or from whoever I was checking in on. And there was this slow unraveling and this coalescence, but in between, it's not just like, oh, make the whole list in one day. I really allowed the process to guide me and to not be in a rush, because these are, I mean, you're zero pointing your mother and your father. Like, those are the cornerstones for me of zero pointing. I can't wait to get to myself. But so um um gosh, it took, I think I started my mom's first list on February 7th. And then once I talked to Morgan, I decided I got to go back and redo the list because I hadn't checked in with all the parts of myself. So then I restarted my mother's list. I picked it up, I put it down, I let it have its own way with me. And that was done. And then I did my father's list. In between there, I had a conversation with a shaman that I've been working with, named Kevin Snow, because I'd had this health problem that was going on for months, and I couldn't find my way out of the maze or find what the teaching was. And it came to me that it was time to do plant medicine, which I hadn't done in years and I don't take lightly. But I heard the call. And so I zero pointed my mom, I zero pointed my dad, and I knew that the plant journey would be before today as well.
Hmm.
So, day before yesterday, I did a plant journey with a strain of mushrooms that are cubenzas. It's a strain called the Maria Sabina strain. You know who she is, right? She was the curandera from Oaxaca.
Hmm.
Um, so I have a friend. Well, let me back up a little bit.
She's a curandera blanca.
Maria Sabina. Yeah, she is a curandera blanca, exactly. So I zero pointed mom and dad. I spoke. I spoke to the earth. I spoke to the mycelium. I spoke to my mom and dad, who had let me know they want to be part of the conversation on that day, right? So there was a lot of preparation, just laying the ground for this experience. So the day came, which was Wednesday, and I gathered my things. I have a Pendleton blanket that belongs to my mother and one that belonged to my father that I inherited when they passed, and held a lot of meaning for me. Blankets, your parents covering you, security, um, Pendleton being made in Oregon, where I'm from. I brought some offerings for the earth. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I really prepared the ground well for myself, right? And there's a friend I have, and he lives out in a place called Canyoncito. It's a little ways out of Santa Fe. And for close to 30 years, he has acres and acres of land, beautiful land. If you and Morgan ever come, I'll take you there. Ted is Ted is like the earth personified. He has turned his property into, it's like a Soulogy that's not online. It's a Soulogy that is about connecting with the earth and connecting with plant medicine and finding your way to the space of healing and coherence. And he has a large medicine wheel, and he's worked about 22 years on it. There's in the center is a very large fire pit and a hearth with all sorts of amazing stones and crystals around it. And then around that is the dirt floor. And then there's another tier. And on this tier is a portal on one side and a tiered stone wall on the other. And it has entrances to the four directions. And it has an ancestor gate in the north. I mean, it's just amazing. So he said, okay, so you're going to come out here and you're going to do this. Great. So why don't you start off at the yurt? So the medicine wheel is way up on a hill. And how can I? And below that hill
You need
is,
more space here. Hang on. Hang on a second. There you go.
and below that hill is, no, I want us both to be on.
Oh, well, can't do it. Oh, wait a minute. I can do it. Hang on. Here we go. Nope.
That's okay.
How do I make?
It doesn't
Wait,
matter.
how do I make it the other person?
It doesn't
No.
matter. So below that yurt is below the medicine wheel is the yurt, right? So I
There
got
we
there.
go.
Thank you. I got there. I arrived. Ted gave me some medicine, and then we walked up to the medicine wheel, and he said, naturally there was no fire built, but he said, I want you to stand on top of the fire pit, because that's the pinnacle, that's like the center of the medicine wheel, right? And he said, and just, take your medicine in, and as you're doing that, get that heart chakra energy moving through your torus field. Get your torus field moving, and then bring in all that healing energy from the medicine wheel and from the ancestors, because this has been going on in that medicine wheel for years. There's been thousands of people from all over the world who have done group journeys and solo journeys there. So he's just like, take that in, as part of your medicine. And then he took me on a walk, because there was a new part of the land that he'd been working with, an oak grove. And so he took and showed me that. And I mean, Ted is amazing what he does with rocks. The pathways, the terraces, the clearings, it's magical. It's rather hard to describe, but when you're there, it's just awe-inspiring.
How
So
far out? How far out of Santa Fe is this?
about half an hour.
Yeah.
And so then he took me and introduced me to 3 different trees that are on the land near the yurt. And then he was like, okay, well, you're on your way, good journey to you. And so I was like unpacking all my stuff from the car and situating myself in the yurt and just taking it all in. And I noticed my will, right? It's like my will was like, oh yeah, it's, you have this idea of how the journey is going to be. You bring your things and you prepare and you have your ideas of what you want to happen and everything. And then all of a sudden the mushrooms were like, forget your will. We're taking over now. Like, just have a lie down. Right. So I grabbed a full body length cushion out of the yurt and a sleeping bag and a pillow, and I lied down. And I closed my eyes and I had the biggest smile on my face. My mouth was open. And the mushrooms just showed themselves to me. and there were no words. Um, it was lots of beautiful colors and shapes, and no straight lines, no harsh lines, all tubular and round and bright, vivid colors. You could see where Weechel art comes from, right? It's the imagination of the mushrooms itself coming through the human brain and then coming into an art form, a physical
Mm.
expression. And I could also see like, oh wow, man, yeah, that's where all those like psychedelic album covers and like concept pictures come from, right? So she's just showing herself to me, and then I had brought my mother's blanket outside with me and my father's blanket, and I covered myself with it. And oh my God, it smelled so toxic. I was like, get that off me immediately. Well, the day before, no, not the day before, I had brought my parents' blankets to the dry cleaners to be cleaned. And my father, I had given my dad's blanket to him, and when we would talk on the phone, he would always say, "I'm laying on your Pendleton blanket." But when I received it in the mail after he passed away, it smelled like Febreze. I don't know if
Mm.
you know what Febreze is, but
Yes.
some toxic shit.
Yeah.
And and then this was the whole time, the only time in the journey where I saw straight lines. Everything else was tubular and round and soft lines. And the minute I smelled that poisonous toxin from the dry cleaners, the lines went straight.
Wow.
And there was this, there was a teaching from the earth. And, she wasn't trying to humiliate me or feel bad about myself, but she was, saying, I know you love the earth, but how can you really love the earth and partake of toxins or things
Yeah.
that poison her in any way?
Yeah. Chemicals.
So yeah, so it's like we go about our daily lives. I tend to think, I'll eat really clean, and I only get, organic this, and I only get really pure essential oils, and I don't spray myself with perfume. But there's all these things that are in our life and in our house that, unless you're hyper aware, or maybe you have chemical sensitivity, um, that you think are kosher, and it's really just not,
Yeah.
right?
I love the way that came to you, because to me it's almost like a glimpse into the collective. Like the coming into the awareness by plant medicine or otherwise, that those things which are, created, let's just say, to try to better the earth, you know what I mean, which really don't have pure intention, which really don't, I mean, and then to see the image, the transformation back to the straight lines from the round tubular. I mean, that's a powerful energetic message.
Right, it was, and it didn't go unnoticed at all. um yeah, so that was huge. So then I got up from lying down, and there were many things. I'm not trying to tell a whole story here, I couldn't possibly share and express every single part of the journey, but just to say, there were these sweet little like so after I got up from that, I was like, oh, I need to put my mom's blankets in the sun to be purified. Like, this chemical shit is crazy, man. So I found a little place where I could make an altar with their blankets, and I set my dad's blanket on a chair, and I got a towel, and I put my mom's blanket on that, and I just started having a conversation with my mom and dad. And then, I knew that this journey was going to be a time of letting go, of um of coalescence, and that it would be a discussion between myself, the earth, the mushrooms, my father, and myself. And one of my primary questions was, How can I become the central nervous system of the earth? Because I've been giving lots of um, energy and thought to DNA, certainly, but also the central nervous system, right? It plays such a huge role in our life. Um, and 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 the earth has her own central nervous system, and the mycelium are a huge part of that. So um, that chemical piece was definitely like, well, if you want to be nice to your central nervous system, for one, like, stay pure, you know. Um, so then what came was this whole transmission, and it was a transmission really that was from the medicine, from my parents, from my higher self, and from the earth. And uh, yesterday I had a terrible day with allergies, and I I obviously haven't become one with pollen yet, but allergies are serious here in New Mexico. So I had wanted to write this down to share with Soulogy. It went on for 15 minutes. It was just me and a voice recorder and walking around on the gravel and in the woods and just receiving the download and speaking it into life. And I thought, well, that's definitely something to share on Soulogy, so you better write that down.
Hey, you
And
know what? Why don't you send it to me in an MP3, and I'll put some imagery behind it. You could even send some pictures.
well, what I had thought, what I wanted to ask if you're into is I'm not too techno savvy, but it came to me yesterday. It was like, you know what, Julie? If you write this, you the intonation is gone, the crunching around in the gravel is gone, the tears are gone, it's all then
Hmm. Yeah.
paper. And I thought, well, it's so so what came to me, Todd, if you're open, is for me to put on headphones
Yeah.
and press play
Yeah.
and say it as I hear it and speak it out.
Yeah.
15 minutes. You got 15 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. And it's not that I won't send it to you in MP3, that I don't know how.
No,
It's
no,
just
no. I love this idea. It's a great
okay.
idea.
Okay.
Very.
So here we go. Let me. So I'm plugged into my phone, and you'll be able to hear me. Um, if you think it's not working, or maybe it's not the best way to deliver it, let me know. But I think it's going to be fine.
It's going to be fine.
And I will sing the song that Morgan wanted me to sing for you. And then in the shower, when I was getting ready, a little rap came to me that I'll.
Let's hear
Very,
that.
it's very short.
That's
Okay.
funny. That's funny because I had a few minutes before the show started, and I was listening to. I went through some old playlists, and I hit the first one, and it was just a playlist I had saved a long time ago. I'd listened to it probably several times, and I heard the beat, and I just started writing uh, something about. I don't know. It just came through like you're talking about. It was about
Nice.
the adventure, and it was about Morgan, and it was about love.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
So it's in the air.
it is in the air. Yeah. It's in the Soulogy field, man. Okay.
Yeah.
Here goes everything. My mind couldn't keep up. My mind couldn't keep up right now with a pen and paper. So I speak it out loud like this. Today I met God. I'd known him for a long time. I thought he was just a man. I thought he was a special man. There were certain things I didn't understand about him, like why he let seemingly parasitical people live on his land. There were things I thought were special about him, like the attention he gave to, in all of the years and his time, to communing with rocks and building with them beauty, walls, stairs, platforms, terraces, shapes. I wondered why he gave that guy a job, but destroyed his house and then never fixed the ceiling. It didn't look so good. And anyway, wasn't it moldy? And I realized that God is a paradox and God is humble. And God does not judge. He will let somebody into his home, the very heart of his home, and work and toil with himself and destroy the ceiling and possibly leave mold. But that doesn't affect God because God is everything. God has nothing, God has no one to impress. He has nothing to be sick from. He is everything. God is a healer. God will invite you to his yurt and make sure he leaves his staff there for you so that you can hold it and feel its power and know your own power. God will share his staff with you. He is not proud. God hangs Pendleton blankets in his yurt to tell you a story. And God doesn't have need for a bathroom, though he'll build you one if you like. It will have all the amenities, the handy wipes, the composting materials, the toilet seat, the sanitizer.
Hmm.
The door will be broken down because, well, God doesn't really care about doors and he doesn't really see why you're trying to sanitize your whole experience of elimination in the first place. But he does do his best to accommodate to a point. When you tell God, you finally see him and how humbled you are and how grateful. He will ask you if you've been talking to the rocks. Or maybe he asked you if the rocks were talking to you. And in your befuddled state, you quickly announce, no. And then, yes, as if God's very question was shaking what was left of any confusion off of you. God told you often that he stood in the center of the medicine wheel and asked himself to be shown. And he lies that he was telling himself about who he was. And when he offers you to stand in the pinnacle, in the very center of the medicine wheel, above the fire pit, so that you may draw up the energy from the earth through your heart, through your toroidal field, radiating your heart's energy. Do not think for one moment that you are not home, are not home. You are magnificent. You have said, no, no more suffering. The buck stops here. No, 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 no more child molestation. that ruins a whole life. No more insanity carried through the bloodlines. I will not give birth to, to any form of that. And when you finally realize that, you feel like a hero on your own hero's journey, that you have done right by your mother and your father and the hearth of the family and the roots of the trees, the ancestors, the ancestral trees, the lineage, the bloodline. You are a warrior. You are a transformer, a magician, an alchemist, a shaman, all of those things. And you feel so bold. And then here she comes, Mother Earth, to show you her infinite creation, how she goes on and on and on with her colors and her shapes and her beauty and her laughter and her sadness. And you realize that you are but a speck, an infinitesimal point in a much larger web and spectrum of the whole. And you bow to your lineage and to your experience and to yourself for being part of the integrity of this web and for being given the opportunity to transform the part of the whole that needed healing. And what a significant and rich role that was, and how humbled you were to be given the chance, the opportunity, and how strong you are that you never gave up. You never gave up. You never destroyed yourself. You held them strong in your heart, even when you did not understand them, even when they confused you, even when they confused themselves, even when their whole life was overwrought with suffering. You held the faith and you kept going. This is beyond words. You are being shown in the very recognition of this who you are and who they are. They played their role in filtering out this experience from humanity, and they brought it as far as they could, and then they turned it over to you, the next generation. They were the kidneys that filtered the blood, and you are the bladder releasing the poison, urination, watering the trees with this poison from the past that has been transformed into a pure water that nourishes the roots and makes the tree healthy and whole and alive again. You are a part of the generation and generation and regeneration for you and the cycle are not separate. You are but an infinitesimal speck in a vast, infinite expanse of space of no importance but to be a good cell in the body of God. And yet, your spirit in this incarnation as a woman standing up for humanity does rightfully own her experience and own herself and own her womanhood and own her maternal and paternal lineage. This is not a joke. What we do for ourselves, we do for the whole. This is how we keep integrity
Mm.
by knowing that we are keeping the roots of our trees strong by making sure they have soil to hold them up and water to deliver the nutrients and a good solid mountain ancestor to support them and their growth and other trees to protect them when they are but a seedling who could be but toppled over by the elements. And the elements, well, the elements are everything. You have the individual expression of the trees and plants and what have you, and those are miraculous and beautiful and not to be taken for granted by any stretch of the imagination. And yet, without earth, fire, water, and air, those expressions would not be possible. And so you stop to acknowledge that and to bow to each of those elements of the directions that they are connected to. And honor all that that represents in the universe and on the planet and in your body. And then come back to center. Back to center. You are everything. And you are nothing. You are a paradox. You are God searching for itself. And so it is.
And so it is. Holy fuckamoly, man.
I love that word.
Morgan made that up. At least that's where I heard it. God. We seriously, through a whole, huge number of different types of expressions, but we are in a space on the earth today where the most powerful thing that can happen is to be witness, so to speak, to a testimony of the connection and awareness and embodiment of infinite intelligence through the mirrors that we share this experience with. I'm convinced, and I said it before, and I'll say it again, and I'll say it till the day I die. The highest transmissions, downloads, and channelings and activations come from the merging of the physical and the non-physical, the sharing of like what you just did. So I want to say that you are not just beloved and beautiful, but you are a brave, brave sister. And you said something earlier about, I don't remember how you said it, because to be honest with you, when you started, like before you went into that, what you shared,
Uh-huh.
your higher self appeared. And I was trying not to laugh because, well, and she looked very human, and she was in a pink ballerina, kind of outfit. And she had, God, I can't remember now, but she had something in her hand. She had a couple different things in her hand. And she was like, I guess, kind of dancing and really like, you could tell like she was ready, like she had practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced. And she was ready to come out. And then when you started to share that, it it came in more dimensional. She changed form, and she was like a, I don't know, I don't think queen does it justice, but more like queen slash enchantress, and I mean that in the best of ways, and sorceress in the best of the ways, and magician and I mean, it was all these different hats, and there was this orange and red and yellow screaming through in like fluorescent colors, right? Morgan has the things she makes, these markers. She makes these mandalas with, like like a highlighter,
Yeah.
And it was so it was a totally different thing from the first one, and it was amazing. It was
Mhm.
amazing. I mean, I got a rush out of it.
Wow. You know, thank you so much for sharing that. And
Well, I was actually talking about something else, and I said it was hard to because those things happen. But you're very welcome, and thank you for sharing what you shared, because that's what it's all about.
well, that red, orange, and yellow is a huge piece for me because when I came on to this plane, first of all, I was in a bit of shock upon arrival, my birth, and it's taken a long time to embody my body, to be embodied, to be here, to feel safe. And those upper three chakras were always really strong.
Hmm.
They weren't grounded because I didn't feel safe, you know. And to have someone else say, "Hey, those three chakras are online," is like, and the pink is huge too because this last year I've been wanting to be surrounded by softer textures,
Hmm.
to want to feel that softness because there's so much harshness in the world right now. And I've brought a lot of pink into my life to soften, to remind me to soften, like the texture, the softness of the texture, the softness of the frequency of pink. And thank you for seeing me. Thank you.
It's hard to say you're welcome to that because it's really, I'm thanking you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But man, something's happening over these last powerful weeks since first part of March. Like, I can't explain it. It's not. That's to me like what you just shared with us is. It's not in the story or even trying to explain it anymore. It's just in the actual expression, the transmission. That is a transmission. That is a
Yeah.
download.
Yep. That was a major transmission.
And like what you were talking about, I wanted to ask you, when you were talking about zero pointing, and you were talking about the mom and dad,
Mhm.
and you were talking about how you were having these epiphanies and revelations, and things coming in, Do you think that, or do you feel that part of that, part of the, the effect of going, as you're going through this process, are moments like you just shared with us? I mean, like, would you have done that before you started that process? I mean, have you seen a relationship between your awareness, skills, abilities, alignment, whatever, since you started doing that? What you were talking about with the 0 point?
There's a word, 0 point definitely played a huge role in all of that, right? So the whole what happened Wednesday was an intention, right? It
Mm,
was like, there was a part of me that was like, you know what, this can't this feeling of depletion and unhealthiness and um a life searching and where is that key that unlocks the door, and the commitment to say, well, you know what it is, it's
mm,
zero. You did all these things and they grow you to the point that you want to grow, but there, you've been the archaeologist, you've gone to archaeologists, you've tried to dig it up, you've tried these things, you've grown yourself in all these ways, and it doesn't mean you haven't grown, but you can hear those programs screaming so loudly in the fucking background, and how do you turn the volume off? Like, enough already, enough, right? And so I was like, yes, 0 pointing, you know and that was that transmission yesterday was a culmination and a coalescence of everything that I've been through in my life, including finding Soulogy, finding 0 pointing, doing the 0 pointing, having the mushroom come online and say, we've got something for you. um, we're part of this health thing you're going through. And then my mom and dad saying, we want to be part of the conversation. We want to be you're part of my nervous system too, right? And I'm part of the nervous system of the earth, and the earth is part of my nervous system. It's all braided together in this beautiful tapestry that now has been transmuted and transformed. And today is the first day I feel like I don't even want to say me again, because I don't feel like the old me.
mm,
I do feel like yesterday after the journey, I was like, oh, I've got more integrity now. And I don't mean integrity
mm,
as far as right and wrong. I mean integrity as far as the strength of my fabric,
mm-hmm.
the fabric, me,
Yeah.
fabric of me, my
Wow.
integrity. And And but then today I was looking in the mirror after taking a shower and getting ready, and I was like, Julie, you're back. You're back. Like
Yeah.
I felt sunken into my face and sunken into my body, and just like, and everything's filled out again. But it's not filled out with the old, it's filled in with the new.
Yeah.
And I'm just so happy to be
Yeah.
here. So grateful to be.
It's, yeah. I really feel what you're saying. There's got to be a lot of it going on. And it's like when you say you come back, it's like there's a part of the human that never leaves, right? There's a
Right.
bunch of the human that's leaving, or the perception of what, or doing whatever.
Yeah.
And so you're like, you come back in, and like what you described. And there is a feeling of I'm back, right? But
Yeah.
you have changed
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm back and better than ever.
Are you going to sing that song for us?
Yes. I played around. I was doing all these little hand gestures came in with the song. And I was like,
Now, when you did the song for Morgan, had you done it before?
mm, it was very recent, and it was only a few days old. And I was like, oh, you got it. Because it has the word 0 pointing in there. I was like, oh, you got to share this with Morgan. And it was the day after her birthday. So I was like, oh, can I offer you a little birthday song?
Wow.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
here she goes. No, that's not it. We are the galaxy gals. We come from I'm trying to get my
I
hands.
got you.
Let's
I
see.
got you.
We are the galaxy gals. We come from the stars. We like to bring it to ya straight from the heart. We're not too concerned with anything that's not us, for in our own great spirit we have placed our trust. We're not looking for anything from near or far, for everything we truly need is all we really are. People like to talk about love and hate and everything in between, but if you 0 point that shit, then finally you can be free. We are the galaxy gals, we come from the stars. We like to bring it to ya straight from the heart, straight from the heart. Yeah.
Oh, holy shiitake mushrooms,
It's a
man.
fun one.
You got a holy fucking moly and a holy shiitake
Holy stuck
mushrooms today.
mushrooms. Right on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And that was beautiful too, right? Right at the right time, the cat came in.
Right. He told me he was going to make an announcement at some point today while we were on here. He's a cat. His name is Che, after Che Guevara. But man, he looks like a cat, but he's one big spirit. He's something else.
Yeah, cats are very special.
The very first time, so I had a lady come to the house years ago and give him some acupuncture. And I'm an acupuncturist, but I don't want to put needles in my cat. So have someone else do it. So she comes over and she says, "Oh, well, Che says he's been your guide in many lifetimes, and sometimes you just don't listen." I don't know, so funny.
I have a feeling all of us have done a little bit of not listening.
Right. Well, sometimes that's how you learn,
Yeah. Well, I've always felt like if you're a stubborn human, you're probably a stubborn soul, which actually serves you, because that's the part of that transmission that you had talking about. You didn't give up, the persistence and the faith, right?
Well, that the suicide program was so strong. I mean, that's how my mom passed away, and it's in her paternal. So it's in my mom's paternal bloodline is polarization, mental instability, chemical imbalance, suicide. It's all there. And then my dad was molested when he was 5, but he just tuned it. I mean, the only way to really survive it was to just forget about it and pretend it didn't happen. But carrying that around in him without acknowledging it and healing it and integrating it left him very polarized and chemically imbalanced. And,
So when were you able to make those two statements? I mean, like, when did you come into awareness of those two things, which basically, from your description, are incorrectly or imprinted on your DNA?
yeah. Can I just take one quick break and I'll come back and answer that question?
I have to go wee too.
Yeah. Let's take a wee break and come back. A wee break, get it?
All right, let me just put something on real quick, because just to, like a commercial. Let's put a commercial on.
Yeah.
All right. So let's put a little commercial on. Who are we going to do? Let's do. Here we got one. Yeah, I'll be right back.
Perfect timing. See you soon.
Okay.
I'm quick.
to Romeo Barron. I hope to see him at the Soulogy Fest. And Bruce, you're so funny. Ween e break.
We need
It's that on YouTube.
So you asked me when was the time I was able to express that in that way about my parents?
Well, yeah, like at what point in your journey did you come to the state of awareness of what you just stated? That's what I was curious about.
Yeah.
Forgot I had my hair down.
Oh. Um Well, I knew about my mom's bloodline pretty early on. Like not while she was still alive, but like I've known that for years. The piece about my dad, I didn't find out until say the past few years.
But like when did you understand it from like a perspective, like you stated, like where you realized how deep it went
Mm.
and it was imprinted upon your DNA, needed to be there. Did you discover stuff like that when you were making the list of your mother and father? Like, did you come to higher?
Well, I discovered it before that, but I hadn't zero pointed it.
I got you.
Like I did 0 point, I 0 pointed suicidal, and I 0 pointed molestation, and I 0 pointed um blocking out awareness of molestation, because that's what my dad did, right? He blocked that out. But I'll tell you, this is another God. I mean, we could be here for days, not that we will be, but just talking about epiphanies from 0 point. But one thing that 0 point did give me, because in my own life, so at age 4, age 11, age 13, I was molested. Age 21, I was raped. And I realized, like, I mean, people like to say all sorts of fancy things. Oh, you were just purifying karma, or this or that or whatever. But I realized, like, I was carrying that imprint in my bloodline. So karma or not, like I was carrying the imprint in my bloodline, right? And that I feel that magnetized those experiences to me.
Of course, yeah,
You know,
yeah,
that was an epiphany. I mean,
yes.
you've had so many, but it's more.
Well, I mean, but that's a really good point about 0 point and what Morgan brings to the table, and I can speak to that, which is you begin to look at things as the physical experience of a program, and you're able to kind of step back and not be caught up in the story. You see it as I can deprogram, I can reprogram. Somebody, I was talking to somebody about it the other day. Somebody else brought it up on somebody else had done a session with her, and they were talking about, and you mentioned it too, about the you're not going to get in a hurry doing it, because it does generate, like you were talking about, that awareness, and it's like a download, isn't it? I mean,
Well,
it's not like you can
there's so
just,
many downloads.
right.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and two, yeah, it lets like it lets like that's enough words for now. You've got so many epiphanies just from those words before you ever did the invocation, right?
Yeah,
And just to sit with that and be with that and let those
that's
realizations
very true.
come to you.
When you make those lists, even before you invocate them,
Way
you
before, yeah,
making the list itself is a trip.
yeah, right. And
Uh,
I'm very thorough. That's what Morgan said too. She's like, "Oh, you're so thorough," but
hmm,
she also had to remind me. She was like, she was like, "Boy, these questions you're asking." She's like, "Some of the questions you asked me, I've worked with a lot of people, and nobody has asked some of the questions you're asking." And so she could see my
Hmm.
multidimensional mind, and
Yeah.
and and she was very honoring of that, but um at the same time she said, I just want to remind you, when you're zero pointing, really like let your human do this, like
Yeah.
stay human while you're zero pointing, because
Yeah.
otherwise my mind is so, all of our minds, right, are so vast and can look at so many things from so many angles, you could, never finish because you're just too
Well,
out there, over here and over there and everywhere.
yeah. And that's another good point. In I don't know how to describe what's going on, but like the human, like, well, it's like you said, you come back, you go, oh, I'm back, but you're not the same,
Mm-mm.
right? And so there's a part of the human that's not gone away that has something incredible to offer, but
Mm.
it's kind of hard to sit in that when you have all this multidimensional information and stuff going on and identification and
Right.
methods of conscious and unconscious spiritual bypassing within yourself, right?
Yeah.
But she has these cards, a deck of cards called O cards, and they're pictures, and you get one, and it's a word, and you get a picture, and they're both many of both, and you go through this process. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because when I first started to do them with her, because they are designed to kind of activate the subconscious, right?
Mm.
So when I would do it with her at first, um, she'd say what you said about the process. She said, "No, stay in your human," because I might see like a picture of a flame and a child, and I might say something like, you know, light worker conceptually, new age, up here, and
Yeah.
and 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 so the trick to it, and the trick to what you're talking about too, is staying in the human with it, right? Like
Hmm.
getting the full input and the full focus and attention. Yeah, you see, your cat
My
is
cat.
agreeing.
Well, he came in, he rolled in the dust, and then he came in, and if I weren't on here, I would immediately go get a wet washcloth and rinse him off. So I'll just hope he doesn't
Well,
go on.
he's not spoiled.
Just hope he doesn't go, oh, it's just about me wanting to clean less. It's like I don't want to wash my cream colored comforter every time he jumps on it. Anyway, yeah, no, it was, thank you, Morgan, for saying that, because it's really helped me to stay human when I'm doing this.
Yeah,
And but even my human is really thorough. So I had to ask at some point, I was like, I just had questions after questions, and I was like, Julie, most of these questions are important, but at what point is it more distraction? Like, why don't you just sit down and start doing it, and maybe the questions will answer themselves, or maybe the zero pointing will answer the question, right?
right.
Um, so yeah, yeah. No, zero pointing is, I mean, all of this, like I said, right now, there's such a, um, right now, and I'm sure there'll be many more disintegrations and coalescence throughout the span of my life on Earth. But right now is a time of great coalescence,
Yeah.
shedding, like,
Yes.
you know, um, somebody on the show, remember you guys were talking about the root is the crown is the root, and
Hmm.
of course when you think about the toroidal field, right, the energy
Right.
comes up from the crown, goes through the toroidal field, comes up through the root, right? So it's like yeah, of course, the root is the crown. And I never loved that. The alchemy symbol is like, snake eating its tail. Like, I'm not too into snakes in the first place. And I know the whole Kundalini association and this and that. But I'm just not big into snakes. And I was like, damn, why does a snake eating its own tail have to be the symbol for alchemy? And but but then the other day, after you had that conversation with that person about the root and the crown, I was like, oh, the the root and the crown ceasing to be like this linear thing, and they're not when you consider the toroidal field, but I think the mind tends to be very linear with these things.
Yeah.
But that snake eating his own tail, that's definitely the root becoming the crown becoming the root, and the two ceasing to have a dualistic relationship, right?
Circle of life.
Yeah.
Right. The thing about that 0.2, well, two things. One, and you mentioned it earlier, is to at some point. Now, for me anyway, I don't know how it is for other people, but once you go through quite a bit of it, you start to actually see that you're removing programs.
Hmm.
Like I was saying earlier, the emotion in the story and the charge goes away, and it changes things,
Hmm.
right? I mean it,
I've
and
seen it. I've seen it already in uh, like today I was witnessing, like there's a very old habit I have that comes through the bloodline, and I'm not really interested in that habit anymore, but the habit's not quite ready to go away. And
right,
what I notice is like that that neural pathway that used to hold that program is still there. It hasn't quite fully atrophied. So it there's a space there, right? It's like you can access that neural pathway, but the program isn't there to hold space for the habit anymore. You know, at the same time, it hasn't fully atrophied. So there's this little chance.
right. Yeah, yeah. You can go back and kind of revisit it, and
Right.
it's not what it was.
Mm-mm.
The other thing too, and as we're talking about this, and what we said something earlier, you were talking about how you didn't have a website and this and that, and I said, the the code, the wisdom code is in the experience, because I can tell you anything. Like Morgan had a session with you, or she's had one with me, but until you hit these points, and you hit these points through actually experiencing it, going there, right, as opposed to allowing it to come in. But that's the other thing I was going to say is, and you can't fake it. You can't fake when you 0 point extreme polarities. And the best example that I've ever heard from, when she talks about it, is the empath and the narcissist. To me, that was another eye opener. You start making a list of your mother, your father, and the first thing most of us was growing up, I don't want to be like my parents, right? And then one day you find out that you are, and then maybe you do something like this, and you start to, you know, 0 point these polarities, and
Mm-hmm.
that's alchemical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's I can't see it anymore, but Morgan just made a really great point about how, when you 0 point, you are allowing more space in your body to hold the higher self, and that makes so much sense. It's like, when it's crowded with all these programs, it's like you might catch glimpses of your higher self, or you might hold it for a moment or a day or however long. And then, the programs just come in and turn up their volume again. And,
Yeah.
you know, anyway, it's all quite ridiculous sometimes, but it's,
Yeah.
it's,
It is what it is,
it,
man. It's like,
yeah, that's another thing, that just letting go of judgment, letting go of judgment, letting go of judgment.
do you feel like, I mean, I know it's so crazy because you've got the individual experiences and you got the collective experience, and there's always connections. I mean, everything's connected, but can you feel, and I'm not just talking about myself. I mean, can you feel judgment leaving? Can you feel some of the energetic alterations, as we're transforming, just
I'll
things
give
that,
you a great,
go
yeah.
ahead, go ahead.
Well, I have an answer for your question, but I
Yeah.
don't know. Was the question whole, or did I need to wait?
No, no, that was fun.
Okay, so um, like yesterday, for instance, when I got the download, the transmission about the poison, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
If I hadn't come to where I am now, or if well, actually, self judgment has been huge in me. I'm so hard on myself. I beat myself up all the time, and not that I'm alone, but I'm talking about me, right? So, and I don't, I don't know about my mom. I mean, yeah, I suppose I caught a whiff of it here and there. So I did. I think I did. I did 0 point that for her. I definitely did for my dad. My dad was really a harsh judge of himself. Comparing myself to others was a huge program. I mean, I can't wait to 0 point myself. But so back to your question is that if I hadn't 0 pointed the programs of self judgment yesterday before I took that journey, once I got to the piece about the poison, my voice would have become louder than the plant's voice. And I would have had all this judgment about, you suck, you're such a fake, you pretend you love the earth, but you took your blanket to the dry cleaners and now you fucking I would have just tore myself into assholes. But I didn't. And it's probably because of what you just brought up, that I had 0 pointed that self-judgment. So yes, that program is leaving. And
Well, I mean, there's so many,
obstacles.
yeah, there's so many levels because if for instance, if you use like judgment, like say you're doing a list on your mom, and you say she's judgmental. Well, there's a part of me that goes, I'm not like her, and then it might go to, well, I'm judgmental, but not like her. So there's still that, you know what I mean? So it's like layers, and sometimes I don't know. It's sometimes. Well, you said it earlier when you were talking about it before you shared that channel with us. You were talking about how, in so many words, basically, your higher self came in and took over, right?
You mean during the
I mean,
during the journey, or
when you were talking about how before you started talking about the plant journey, you were talking about the 0 pointing.
Yeah.
And you were describing it, and I don't remember the exact words, but basically, you could see things happening, right?
Yeah.
Well, okay. This has been quite fascinating. I'm really digging going these hour and a halves. I told Morgan that I think I'd like to shift to 2 shows a day of an hour and a half to 2 hours apiece, go longer, and then a couple nights a week, maybe do a third show to get in any of the markets we can't get in for people that come on. Because I really enjoy it. There's a lot of evolution occurring, and I get a lot of it from the energy of doing this show. So I enjoyed this hour and a half. I really enjoyed your channel. It was quite profound. I'm going to have to take a look at it again. Yeah, really, and maybe do something with it. Put it into the Soulogy remix. Maybe
awesome.
put a little music behind it.
Yeah.
It was very powerful. It was very vulnerable. It was very fierce, and it was just beautiful.
Thank you.
And brave. So,
well,
muchas gracias, mi hermana hermosita.
Oh, de nada. Era mi placer. Would you? I've never seen you wear the color red. Would you wear the color red?
Yeah, I have 2 shirts that are red. Okay. I think I will. Yeah.
Good to know. You'll find out why Soulogy Fest, because I'm coming to Soulogy Fest.
I know. I was just going to bring that up. You're coming to Soulogy Fest, and I just want to remind everybody, not to plug it, but just to give you a little. So yeah. So of course, we got about 50 tickets left, and I think we'll probably see a run on those in the next few days because we're going to be doing some promoting. And there's also the online, which is 122. You have you have it live the whole time. Then you have a MP4 that will be given to you afterwards. But a big part of the it's actually going to be 4 days, because Monday we're going to have a free day, and it looks like we're going to have it at a very well-known restaurant over there. But there's going to be, with that 4th day, over 20 hours of kind of open mic, and probably half of those hours are going to be for people that come that want to share. And I'd love to see you share your channel that you shared, and maybe we have a bunch of incredible genius musicians there, and maybe somebody's behind you with a gong or a flute and guitar or whatever, keyboard, but also for you to do your song too.
Yeah.
If you would be open to that, we would certainly accommodate you. I'll be the MC, so I can control the schedule a little bit.
Yeah, I would. I accept the invite and the honor. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before we go, can I share the little piece that came to me in the shower? It's just real short.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. It goes like this. Um, hey, wisdom, come over here and turn me on. Hey, little girl. Hey, just a minute. Um, Sorry, my cat got me distracted. 1 second. Hey, wisdom, come over here and turn me on. Hey, little girl, come out to play. It's time to have some fun. Heart, heart, open your wings. It's time now to glide. Ego, ego, just sit back and enjoy the ride. Slide, no, slide, glide, dip, and fly. Wisdom and grace. Now is the place, and here is the time. Now is the time, and here is the place. Yeah, wisdom, grace, time, place. I'll do it a little better at the Soulogy Fest. I look forward to
That's three little pieces you're going to
three
have to
little
do.
ditties.
Yeah,
You know, two of them are
couple.
about 1 minute.
What's that?
The song and this one are 1 minute, and that
Yeah,
other piece is 15.
yeah, yeah. We're going to have little quick ditties from here and there.
Okay.
No doubt. Okay, I just want to say again, thank you very much, and this has been beautiful. I look
Thank
forward to
you.
every day starting out with a show like this, with this type of energy, as the sacredness in all of us expands in every moment. So I'll see you. I love you. I
I love you.
appreciate you. I thank you, and all blessings to you and yours. And I will, if I don't talk to you before then, I'll see you on May the 28th.
Okay. Thank you to you and Morgan and Soulogy for being part of my healing journey and my life. I love you guys. Mwah.
You're
Bye.
very welcome. Take care. We'll be back in 29 minutes